Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the United States of America. Good morning to the world receiving our signals via the magic of El Internet, formerly known as the ARPANET. Folks, we're going to have a great program for you today. Remember, we got to take back all that was taken away from us. But without further ado, let's go to the studio where we have El Señor Howard Reynolds and Jack Van Bebba.
And I am making my plans to take back that internet. One user at a time.
One user at a time.
Friday morning at the radio. It is the 27th of June, 2025. And, I have no rants today. So Jack will have to take up the time with his wisdom. Looks like he's got a full page here. So let's get to it.
Right. Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
Good morning, Jack. How you doing, my dear brother?
I'm good, sir. I'm good.
Good.
Senate Republicans come up with their tax bill. It's even worse than the House tax bill. Democratic Senator Ron Wyden says it's a bigger ripoff. This is an unprecedented handout to the already wealthy. Citizens, as the wealthy gorge themselves on tax money stolen from you, do they understand that as they pay themselves out of the pockets and purses of the people, their greed and fascist policies will undermine what little to no integrity they don't possess. The people are waking up to the reality that they have made a mistake voting in a bunch of billionaires to run the country, because all they're doing is looting the taxpayers' treasury for themselves, gutting the social safety policies, and generally making a selfish ass of themselves as they inflict great pain upon the poor, the old, the working poor, and their oyster, the middle class. Their oyster, the middle class.
Yes.
Certainly bears repeating.
Their oyster, a middle class.
Well, 3 times is good. I'm expecting Beetlejuice any second now. Oh, wait a minute. He's in the White House already.
Yeah.
That is so funny. Anyway, folks, I just, somebody just tried to call, but I had the wrong number on the screen. I had the afternoon number on the screen. The real number to call our show is 713-526-5738. 713-526-5738 for the morning calls. Thank you so kindly, my dear brothers and sisters. Anyway, we got a great show for you today. Thank you, Howard and Jack. I think all the strings look like they're connected all correctly, right?
I think so, yeah.
All right, good. All right, good morning. We have buenos dias para Lisa from, I think that is, is that a new Lisa Blair from, I think it's Atlanta, Georgia, and Joe from California, Los Angeles, California. And of course, we've got on the screen, Marge KJ says, I am from Chesapeake, Virginia. Donna Decker Robertson, Lewis Woods, welcome aboard. Anyway, look, Jack is absolutely correct. Yesterday, Donald Trump went and he said that, this was the biggest, or one of his reps says, the biggest operation in the military's history occurred when we dropped those few bombs in Iran. So that was the best thing that ever happened, right? And it was the most powerful mission ever done. Donald Trump has learned one thing from his existence, and that is people want to believe. And the truth is, people do want to believe. Donald Trump also gave an idea of the reason he created no tax for tips was because this beautiful woman in Las Vegas looked at Donald Trump and said, no tax on tips, no tax on tips. And he created policy based on a young lady telling him no tax on tips. Remember, most people don't get paid by tips. A belly dancer in Vegas gets paid by tips, and she gets a tax break because she got to Donald Trump at just the right time. But the teacher who teaches is on a salary. She doesn't get tips. That discount, that break means nothing for her. The doctor who doesn't get any tips doesn't mean anything for him. So we have a guy that just gives arbitrary policies. Now, I'm going to pause here because I'm going to talk a little bit about we want to believe. And because a lot of politicians know we want to believe, and we also have a tendency to respect authority more than we should, because actually we are the one who cede authority and then are led by authority, and many a times want to cede our rights, our truths to authority. That's a problem. And I'm going to go through that in a minute. But since I have one call, I'll go ahead and take the call real quickly and then jump back to the subject at hand. So let's go ahead and bring John into the conversation. John, come on in.
Yeah, I really don't understand that idea that because somebody is in a position of authority that we should blindly follow and trust everything that they say. But it seems like a lot of people do actually have that idea. And I remember a conversation with somebody who I thought was very intelligent in some areas. But, I said, well, I don't even trust the people I vote for. I'm highly critical of everything that they do because that's what we're supposed to do in a democracy. That's what I thought anyway. But apparently some people disagree with that and think that out of respect, we should just follow them. What's the purpose then of voting or electing anybody? We should just have kings. We could, have the divine right of kings, but we decided, many years ago to dispense with that. And we had the belief that we could, reasonably and rationally make choices over our own future, and make our own decisions, through elected representatives. But, some people really, that idea is ingrained in them that they should believe whatever a person in a position of authority, say. And that's all I have to say. I just find that really strange. Yeah.
Yeah, and again, the reason for a lot of that is, again, a lot of folks go to church, and that's what they learn in church. They've learned structures when they go to school. They've learned to believe certain things from certain things about the economic system. All these things are false. But once you're indoctrinated in that domain, you tend to keep thinking that way. Now, look, all of us are indoctrinated. I am indoctrinated to some extent, right? But there are two kinds of indoctrination, right? One, that you believe in a set of policies, but you still have an open mind to change when necessary. And those that just believe this is the way things are supposed to be, and this is the way they're gonna be. And what we have to do as open-minded people, those of us that are, is show the reason why the former is absolutely, or the latter is not the case. We have to make sure to let people realize that blind faith in authority, or those we consider with authority, whether that be a journalist, whether that be a politician, whether that be a preacher, whether that be a doctor, we can't do that. All right. Anything else, John, or anything else?
Well, I've had, experiences with people in positions of authority. Like, for instance, my late father-in-law was a brigadier general, and he said, and I think he was kidding, but maybe not. He said, John, there are people that agree with me, and then there are people that are wrong. But there are a lot of people who occupy positions of authority, and they're either I think they're sociopaths, really. They don't want to come to a consensus on the basis of, what is the best reasonable policy or whatever. They just want to shove their point of view down the throats of many people, and they feel like they're owed that for some reason. They're clever. They're more, they're a better people than the rest of us, and they get to do that. And that's the issue. And I am a deeply religious person, but I have a firewall between what I think is religious truths and what are, political ideas, and what would be the best way to go about our policy and day-to-day, whatever issue it might be, global warming, infrastructure, healthcare, etc. I don't consult my Bible. I consult
You consult the facts. You consult the facts.
Yeah,
you consult the facts.
Exactly.
But anyway, look, John, I got to go. So let's, I thank you for calling in for Scholar of the Morning. Let me go ahead and toss it to Howard, and then we'll get into exactly why I started where I started. Okay?
Well, I've got a couple of cents to add here. And one is, if you talk about people believing people in positions of authority, check out the Milgram experiment, the Stanley Milgram experiment.
Is that the one with the shock?
That was the one in the shock. That's right. And not one of those people stood up to authority, whom they thought was authority. Not one of them. Even though they were convinced that they were hurting the other person, they wouldn't stand up to him. That was a very shocking and a very disturbing experiment in the findings. So if you want to talk about believing or following people in authority, look up the Milgram experiment. You will be shocked. And that's my 2 cents.
Thank you for that, my dear brother. Now, let me go ahead and say this. McConnell recently said to the caucus, to the Republican caucus, on passing the big ugly bill, he said, look, guys, just pass the damn thing. I'm paraphrasing, of course. Just pass the damn thing. They'll get over it. The people who are being hurt, which are many, which are most, they will get over it. And, he has a point. So far as a country, we have gotten over the bad things that the politicians have been doing to us since 1980, since supply side economics went in full force. Again, remember, we have gone in cycles from the robber barons till the correction done by Roosevelt to coming back to the Reagan reinstituting supply side economics, which has made every American but the top poorer. Semblance of richness, but poorer, or a semblance of richness because credit changed. Now, I want to remind you of how this stuff works, and politicians know it well. I want to start with Israel. We have Israel using 1,200 horrific killings by Hamas on their people. They use that to decimate Gaza. So 1,200 of our Jewish brothers and sisters got killed in Israel. And for that, now counted over 100,000 Palestinians dead, but counts have it as high as over 300,000 if you count the people that are still under the rubble that is throughout Gaza, because he decimated Gaza. But still, when you watch TV or when you listen to these folks, they just tell you, they did what they had to do. Think about it. Who is the aggressor? 300,000 versus 1,200. Body counts count. Iraq, we lost about 4,200, between 4,200 and 5,000 Americans got killed in Iraq. But over 500,000 Iraqis got killed. Who's the aggressor? Panama, we wanted to get Manuel Antonio Noriega, one person. Anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000 Panamanians dead. Who is the aggressor? We were told that supply side economics, the Reaganomics, voodoo economics would bring prosperity to all. Most of the wealth went to the top 0.1%, the top 10%, and everybody continues to get poorer under these types of policies. Yet we are scared to hear the word social democracy. But we understand that the current economic system has been decimating your pocketbooks. Your healthcare continues to go up. Yet you're told that Medicare for all will harm you, when Medicare for all, just by the numbers when calculated, proves that that is a better system. The rest of the world, the rest of the OECD, the rest of the industrialized world is doing it differently from us, have better healthcare outcomes, not only have better healthcare outcomes, but healthcare can't decimate you. But we continue to fear that, as opposed to electing people who said, yes, that's what we're going to do. We have rents all over America taking up a bigger and bigger part of our incomes. And we can feel it. We can see it. Yet we continue to elect people that says, no, we don't want rent control. No, we don't want policies that stop folks from doing these things. Let's remember why rents go up, why all these things go up. Well, because of an economic system that says growth, growth, growth for the people who own those stocks in those resources that you use, whether it's be healthcare, the stocks in the hospitals, the stocks in the real estate, the stocks in the defense industrial complex companies that need to build bombs to supply the killing that Israel and armies around the world are doing. They have to grow. They have to grow. They have to grow. So defense companies grow by creating bombs and killing. Healthcare companies grow by charging you more, by making you by telling you you have an illness that needs them instead of maybe drinking water. Rent goes up because the people who owns REITs, real estate stocks, they need to make more money, and that money has to come from the people who least can say no. You. When Mamdani won the race, people wanted to understand, how can somebody, we have taught Americans to fear that word, democratic socialist, hell, socialist. We've taught Americans that is something that you see in Venezuela. Do you want to be like Venezuela? Do you want to be like Cuba? Do you want to be like North Korea? Do you want to be like those countries? That's what they teach you. That's what it looks like. But wouldn't you like to be like Denmark, the happiest country in the world, or Sweden, or one of those countries where, people have a very high happy index? It's in our hands, but we have allowed ourselves to stop critically thinking, believing what we're told. Yesterday morning, we're watching TV, and the big scare right now is out. And it comes out just in time for this big, dirty bill. Social Security will not be able to pay its outlays in 10 years. That's the new numbers. Because of the amount of people working and paying into Social Security, and the amount of people, the baby boomer generation, that's retiring at 60,000 people every day. I think it's 60,000. I don't remember. Some amount of thousands of people every day. So eventually, there are going to be more people taking out more money than people putting in money, the volume of money. So it won't be able to fulfill its mission at full cost. So this expert comes on TV. This Social Security expert comes on TV. And, they got my wife's attention. Hey, Egberto, Social Security is going to be bankrupt in 10 years. And the options that she gave were three. One, we could take the 22% or 25% or 28% cut in the amount we get from Social Security, right? Because that's how short it's going to be. Or we could actually increase the Social Security taxes. Right now, you pay, if you're an employee, you pay 6.2%. Your employer pays another 6.2%. That's how much, Social Security is not free. We're all paying for it. So when they talk about entitlements, it's not free. We pay for it. But that's how we save it, right? Increasing it to 6.2% on everybody, right? And the third option is to just go ahead and have people work longer. So you can no longer retire at 62. You can no longer retire at 65. You can no longer retire at 67. You now have to work into your old age. And more than likely what that means is you die before you're able to collect anything from Social Security. What a saving. We save by just making you die. Those are the three options the expert gave on TV. And my wife looked and said, hey, wow, those are, tough options. And my daughter said, well, Ma, we have already, my generation have already know that we're not getting Social Security. And I looked at both of them and I said, stop it. Stop it. I am not doing this work, this type of activist work here for folks to go ahead and say, we just have to take it. Social Security is going bankrupt or whatever. I said, you listen to what that woman said, the expert that everybody wants to listen to, right? She's the expert. No, she is the plutocracy's stooge. Because the most important option that is there to save Social Security wasn't mentioned. And the reason it wasn't mentioned, it's because it is where the money really lies, and that is with the wealthy. We could actually reduce Social Security. We don't have to keep Social Security at 6.2%. The reason it's at 6.2% is that we stop collecting Social Security taxes up and until $176,000, which means if you make $1 billion a year, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, of your billions of dollars that you make every year, your Social Security tax stops at $176,000. Not even a rounding error for Bill Gates, not even a rounding error for Tom Cruise, not even a rounding error, folks. Understand what we're talking about here. They give you the options. They don't allow you to critically think about what the solutions are. They are telling you, I will give you a plate of options you can choose from, but you don't get a chance to define what's on that plate. No, that's not true what I just said. You choose, all of you that are listening to me right now, you chose not to determine the options on that plate, because the other option on that plate that Social Security expert gave you was everybody's income, whether wages or capital gains, whether dividends or not. Every single thing called wages should be taxed. And if that is done, the Social Security taxes for absolutely everybody wouldn't go up, it would go down. Not only because most of the money paid out in this country, most of the income made in this country, most of the wealth in this country is owned by less than 20% of this country. And in fact, the vast majority by the 0.1%. Americans don't understand the extreme wealth that this country has. if you were to see the charts as far as what the wealthy really has, it would blow your minds. They like to say things like, if we tax the rich, then eventually we'll have nothing to tax. There will not be enough money. That is the biggest lie out there. Because what the rich have learned to do, or what not they've learned to do, what they've commanded their politicians they own to do, is to define what income is. So when you go to work and you use your wage, you make a wage, you make an hourly salary, or you make other than hourly salary, you're either salaried or you make an hourly wage, one or the other. It's a little bit of money. They call that income. But that's not how the wealthy makes their money. In fact, a lot of CEOs, they take $1 as their income. And then they tell you, I am a nice guy. I only make $1 because I know I have a lot of money. So I only take $1. And they make it seem like it is something benevolent they're doing, which it isn't. It is actually something much less benevolent than one would believe, because they take their monies as stock options, which the income from stock option comes from something called capital gains, which means when that price of that stock go up and they sell it, remember, they did no work. They just sold a stock. The income tax on that stock is less than what you pay as an employee getting income. Both of them are income. They're income. But he pays or she pays less than you do because they define that income as capital gains. Let me tell you another kind of income that they use. Let's say I got $1 billion in stock. And let's say I live on $500 million a year, right? That's what I make. I don't go ahead and sell that stock, because I sell that stock, I'll have to pay income tax on it. Less than you do, but I still have to pay some income tax. I don't want to pay any income tax. I am wealthy. We don't pay taxes. That's for the peons. That's for you guys. That's why Social Security stops taking payments at $176,000. You know why? Because you got to pay for that stuff. We don't. Even though the billions that we made was on your back. Because do remember, when you're a secretary, a janitor, an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, whatever, they are making money on you because they don't do anything. You know, the reason Elon Musk had the ability to run around and with a chainsaw and all of that, because he doesn't work. And the genius that they say he is imagined. It's the media imagining that because he has wealth, he's a genius, as opposed to an economic system that rewards those who do the least. But we continue. So as far as these guys who have stocks, they don't have to worry about taxes because they go to an insurance company or they go to a bank and they say, hey, I want to borrow every year. I want to borrow let's say $10 million I want to borrow. And the bank says, okay. And they say, I'll put my stock up as collateral to that loan. The bank says, okay. And the bank loans you the money and they charge you a little bit of interest on that money, tiny bit of interest compared to the tax rate. And you said, okay, I'll just borrow that money and spend that money, that borrowed money. And because it is borrowed money I'm spending, it's not income. It is based on my stock. It is based on my wealth. But since I'm spending supposedly the bank's money backed by my stock, I pay zero income taxes on that. And later on, if I decide to pay it back, there's no big deal. I actually get a tax break I also get a tax break for the income taxes. I mean, for the interest that the bank is charging me because I passed it through my LLC. My brothers and sisters, the economic system that we have is a con for the wealthy. But nobody tells you that. You listen to CNBC every day. You listen to CNN every day. You listen to NBC every day. And they tell you entitlements are breaking the budget. They're telling you all these things that are breaking the budget. The one thing that they don't tell you is breaking the budget. Bernie will tell you, Mamdani will tell you, is the wealthy, the billionaires. If you want to know who is breaking our budget, it's the people who are the biggest loafers. All of you that are listening to me, including many of you who support these guys, oh yeah, glory, glory, hallelujah for these guys who are screwing you. It is they who are destroying this country. You are not getting entitlements, folks. The people that they teach you to hate, that person on welfare, that person on food stamps, even that person on food stamps is doing more for the economy than that wealthy person in the aggregate on a percentage basis, because the act of them spending that food stamps create economic activity for that wealthy person. But you're not taught that. And like John said earlier, we are just given and taught the things that they want us to know, but we simply don't know how this system operates. And in not knowing that, we make the decisions that we make. When Mitch McConnell says they'll get over it, he's saying, hey, all of you that are listening to me right now, Mitch McConnell told you are so stupid that you are going to get over that he's about the Republican Party. And that new bill is about to take you to the cleaners once again. Once again, it's going to make you poorer. And the article that I selected for this morning that Jack paraphrased earlier has a beautiful chart in there that shows you how much you're being screwed by the 0.1%, by the 1%, and by the 5%. And it's not a pretty thing. So here is my advice to all of those that are listening. First of all, do not accept the things that I say at face value if it makes you uncomfortable. Please go ahead and please do your own research and find out these things that I'm telling you. Because again, like I said, you don't get this stuff. Not even when you go to business school do they cover all the machinations that rich does to keep you down. Because remember, for there to be a master, there's got to be a slave. For there to be an ultra rich in a growing economy where you grow faster than everybody else, you have to have the poor worker bee. That's you. And you have to determine, and by the way, we still live in a democracy. You have to determine if you're going to continue to let ideology, if you're going to continue to let prejudice, false prejudice that is, if you're going to allow them to put hate in your heart, to do these things, to rip you off as they do it, that's really on you. Welcome, Lee the Bearcat from Austin, Texas. Profo Momo, welcome. We also have Joe, Eric, Margaret. Margaret is from Washington State. Thank you for being here. All of you West Coast people that call it, I love you guys, man. You guys call in early. Insomniacs? That's why I know how you feel. John Davis says Elon Musk bought a patent from engineers who created his electric car. He started with a lot of wealth. Yeah, and he got his wealth in an interesting way during the tech bubble, right? We got to realize how these things occur. We have a system that allows this, that promotes this. But anyway, let's go ahead and go to Johnny. Come on in, Johnny.
Egberto, I want to thank you. That was an excellent rant, by the way. And when you started your show this morning, pointing out the motivations behind Donald Trump with regards to how he sees other people, that is so true. And I want to thank you for pointing that out. Because, you know, with all the stuff that we are bombarded with day to day. It's so easy to forget things. It's so easy to overlook things. And so I want to thank you for being that reminder, that educator, that facilitator. And my heart sank when I was imagining you alone in your living room trying to set your wife and your daughter straight. I wanted to be there with you at that point to help bolster you up and set them straight in a nice way. So please know that you're not alone. I feel the need to say that. And now why I really called. I want to dovetail with what you were saying after your first point about Donald Trump's motivations. Well, actually, this is about Donald Trump's motivations. I don't know if he had the experience as a young kid of having to go door to door to sell candy bars for his school, like I did. That's a common experience many kids have. It's a rite of passage, I believe. And in that experience, that's when many of us first start to realize as young kids as to how either suggestible or vulnerable or brainwashed or programmed, however you want to describe it, adults are around us when we go door to door. We start to realize, especially if you're a kid, a young child, a girl, let's say, you begin to realize, hey, I can use my cuteness to apply guilt on this person to get them to buy extra candy bars from me. It's a teaching experience, really. When you sell candy bars for your Catholic school or your public school, do they sell candy bars in public schools to raise money? I don't know. Do you know?
I hear you. Yeah, they do. I mean, in fact, I buy them all of the time.
Yeah, so I think Donald Trump's first experiences was discovering the power of being a bully because given of who his parents were, or his dad's in particular.
His dad, yeah.
His dad encouraged that. His dad was very mercenary as far as I could tell from what I heard about that guy. And so Donald Trump learns, you learn from your parents, right? Like I said before, when we're kids, our job is to watch the adults in our life, our parents, our aunts, our uncles, our neighbors. And so the inputs he got were bad. And then he runs into Roy Cohen. Is that his name, the gay lawyer who died?
Yeah, the guy that he said, I need my Cohen. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the guy who pretended he had cancer. The guy who told Donald Trump, this is how you abuse the legal system. And when you get someone like that encouraging a bully like Donald Trump, a bully who has lots of money he gets from daddy, you're creating a perennial weed that will not go away. So I feel like I'm going off on a tangent here, but I just wanted to thank you for your opening. I wanted to remind you you're not alone. And yeah, one of the inputs we have as kids growing up, we realize for the first time how stupid people really are, how suggestible they are, is when we are forced to go door to door to raise the money for our school by selling candy bars. That's how.
Let me just say something, Johnny, because what has happened, the Powell memo, when that came out in the 70s, right? They understood what they needed to do. Psychology works. And that thing about combining hate and combining prejudice, hate, and all these things to remove people's eyes from the ball, right? It is work. On what I'm hoping to do, what we are hoping to do, you inclusive, those people that actually have their eyes wide open, is to counter that part of our brain that the Powell memo understood. It could get into the churches, the schools, and the press. Remember, those are the three major areas that the Powell memo said it had to infiltrate: the schools, the churches, and the press. And then it also needed to have what we call the think tanks that generates these information that's going to go into the churches, the press. That's why you can have evangelical pastors now who tell their flock it is okay what those thugs are doing on the streets to harm our neighbors, our undocumented workers. No pastor that really believes in the word of Jesus Christ, and I'm not a religious person anymore, but no pastor who believes in what Jesus Christ stood for would actually watch what's happening in our country today, both from an immigration standpoint and an economic standpoint, and actually support any economy or support any politician that supports an economy that is doing this to your fellow man, to your fellow woman.
Yes.
So that tells you how effective the Powell memo was. Johnny, my calls are filled. Thank you so kindly for those kind words. And it is hearing those statements of support that whenever we're out here doing the work, that gives us the fuel to do the work. Honestly, that's what is our chat screen. When I see certain comments in our chat screen, that is like fuel. Thank you, my brother. Let's go to Tag.
I think.
Tag, you're on.
Good morning, Egberto.
Good morning, my brother.
You got me thinking about the healthcare system and how people are taking money out of it, like Rick Scott, for example, what he did. He got away with it. But I think the larger picture is the society that we live in today is a culmination of everything that we as a nation has put into everything, including the healthcare system. And at one point, the healthcare system pretty much took care of everybody with our taxes. But then all of a sudden, we started getting all these private insurance companies, and now the money's flowing upward through the insurance companies, and not as much of it is going to the people in healthcare anymore. And I think that's really become a big problem for us, because there's a little leak in the plumbing there, you know what I mean, where the money's dripping out.
Well, Tag. Tag, there is the healthcare industrial complex, and that's not only the insurance companies. That's insurance companies. That's the hospitals. Everybody gets a piece of the action that you put in. Everybody gets a piece. And look, that's capitalism for you, right? But again, the problem is they get a piece of the action in a stolen way. Most of the creation, most of the inventions, most of the drugs, they had their genesis in our public universities and schools, or they had their genesis in, let's say, the Harvard, who is receiving NIH grants, etc. So we are paying for all these things twice. Once to get it developed and created, and after we pass it on to a capitalist company that markets it, marks it up, and we pay again. Continue, brother.
Well, my point was that, like, before Reagan, our tax money, was going directly to the hospitals and the doctors. And those are the people that should be getting the money, not the people who are selling insurance.
Agreed.
And so that was kind of my comment.
Agreed, Tag.
We need to remember that used to be our money went to the hospitals and doctors. Our money used to go to the schools. Our money used to go to the roads. Now all of a sudden there's all these little cancers that are growing up in these systems that are bleeding off the money. So you can't have a good hospital system anymore, because somebody is taking some of the money out of there and doing nothing but pushing paper. So with that, I'm going to go. Thanks, Egberto.
Thank you, brother. I want to thank you, Tag. I want to expand on something Tag said that is important. He said that the hospitals, the paper pushers, the stockholders in the hospital continues to get more and more and more. And again, that is by design. When you have an economic system that's solely based on growth, exponential growth, not just, let's give a quick example. Walmart could exist forever if it says we mark up our products, let's say 3%, so that the stockholder gets a good share every time for owning the stock. We can afford to pay our employees. We can afford to pay, a standard 3% markup on products would be great. And that would be a profitable company. But in a capitalist system, not a free enterprise system, that isn't enough, because there's this thing called growth. So Walmart is divided into stocks, and those stocks have to appreciate, because most of the money on that stock for that stockholder isn't made just on dividends. That standard 3% that I said, if you mark up everything they would be able to get their 3% or so dividend on that stock. They want a higher growth rate, which means the appreciation of the stock. So if your economy is growing at 2 to 3%, but the capitalist system guarantees a 7% or so appreciation that people make on stocks, that has to come from somewhere. So when we talk about what Tag says, the hospitals keep taking more and you keep getting less service, it's true, because that hospital stock is not just about being somewhat profitable, it's about being excessive profitably on top of the growth rate of the economy. And that is the flaw in the system. When I said that the pilfering that occurs is a mathematical formula of our economic system, that is exactly what I mean. The formula of the system is extractive. The formula of the system says for those wealthy to make that kind of money, you have to be poorer. And in the past, I could say that, and people could say, I don't believe it, I don't believe it. But every year, it comes more and more to pass. Every year, people see it getting worse and worse. It is a mathematical formula. Just math. Come on in, Donald.
Morning, Egberto. How are you today?
I'm good, my brother. Talk to me.
Where, who, what, when, where, why, and now flip the who to how. How are you going to get it done? But what you need to do, see, Johnny feels sorry for you. I don't, because I gave you an idea a long time ago. What you need to do is get your beret back out that you used to tout around, in your college days. So go ahead, put on your black and white shirt, dress up as a mime with white face and a teardrop and go, I've got to break this silence. You get your daughter and your wife and you do a skit and go, look, I'm not a Panamanian, Caribbean, Spanish, Latina, all that. I'm a mime, but I've got to speak out. And you keep speaking out and you do that skit and record it and you'll get YouTube likes. You just have to be a talking mime because enough is enough.
Donald, it is so funny that you said that about putting on the beret and the boots again, right? Believe it or not, there are times when I went out there for the No Kings March, right? That's how I felt. I was so happy to see those hundreds of people here in Kingwood, right? And I was like, wow, this feels like the days when we wore the beret and when we put the boots on. But you know what, brother? Look, this platform here that you listen to and you contribute to both in many ways, including with your voice, that reaches people. Because a guy talking like you, right? You would not imagine when you make those statements, how many people outside are listening to you because you are conferring here. So all of that is a part of the thing of changing peoples and changing minds. Remember, there was a time back in the 60s, nobody believed that civil rights could ever get a toehold in America. They believed that's just how things were going to be. And people change. And that's the faith I have in this country as well, brother. All right. Thank you, Donald.
Well, you know what? Hey, if they take our Social Security away and we're 70 years old and we put into it, we still got guns and trucks and we can just pile on the truck. We're not going to go to the new Washington. We're going to go to the ones that put us in this boat.
There you go, brother. So, peace.
That unfortunately will happen. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you, brother. Let's go to brother Bruce. Come on in, Bruce. Bruce, you're on. Can you hear me, Bruce? Bruce would say, I'm here. But Bruce, you must be on mute. Let's go to line 2 and then we'll, actually, Brian is on. Let's go to Brian, number 3. Let's see if he's there. Because Bruce is not answering for some reason. Come on in. Bruce, give us a call back.
I'm here.
All right. Come on in, Brian.
Yeah. How about an immigration law update? Here's an immigration law. It's written. Must have the means to sustain themselves economically, not destined to be a burden to the society, of economic and social benefit to the society, of good character and have no criminal record, of the general well-being of the nation. Now, is that truthful or not?
I love that. I absolutely love that. Yes, sir. I love that. And you know what's so good about that? If you decide to be honest, that fits the definition of most people who cross the border and come over here. Unlike the original settlers in this country who killed. Wait, not yet. I agree with you that that is a good definition, but more importantly, like I said, it would have been a good definition if the original settlers had followed that as well. Continue, brother.
That is the Mexican. That is the Mexican immigration law, not the United States.
But it doesn't matter. I said I agreed with you, didn't I?
Mexican immigration law,
brother. Did I say I agree?
You don't the facts, do you?
Sir,
do you?
I am agreeing with you. Bye, Brian. I told you I love that, and I think that describes the people that come over here. Thank you, Brian. Let's go to Betty. Betty, line 2.
Hi, Alberto.
How you doing, beautiful?
If the bill passes, who's going to hold our hand and when we're sick and dying? It's Medicare and Social Security. Trump's promised, to the rich to give them the taxes, and he won't. That won't stop there.
You're right.
Huddle with each other like they don't want us to touch them, and they miss what we are here for. I love you too is what they're supposed to be here for too. Love you. Bye-bye.
Love you, beautiful. Let's go ahead and talk to Brother Bruce on line number 4. While Bruce is coming in, let me just say, guys in the chat, John A. Davis, good information John A. Davis is putting out there in the Substack chat. Thank you for all of that. I can't read all of it. As you can see, it's a really busy morning, but thank you. I do read your chats, brothers and sisters, and likewise in the other chat. Let's go to Bruce. Brother Bruce, talk to me.
Good morning. Good morning,
Good
Alberto.
morning, sir. Good morning, brother. Talk to me.
Okay, I'm going to call next week because I have a couple of humorous things that happen with medical that you might want to hear. But anyhow, today, when it comes to the big bad bill, and by the way, thank you for the informative program. I learned a lot today. When it comes to that big bad bill, sometimes with Donald Trump, you have to speak in a way that he understands. With his memos about national security, they have to make videos and dumb it down. All right. So Donald, what you're trying to do with that big bad bill is you're trying to grab America between the legs and squeeze her humahoos. We're going to slap you. I'm done.
Oh man, you are always very amusing, Bruce. Thank you for that, my brother. Thank you for that.
Egberto,
yes.
Real quick.
Yes.
I had two tests done, and one of the tests, my doctor really got pissed when she saw it. One of the tests came back talking about my left testes and my right ovary. The other test came back and it said there is no arteriosclerosis. And then 2 lines later, it said there is mild to moderate arteriosclerosis. It contradicted. And she's like, what the heck? But anyway,
that's AI for. Look, let me. Before you go, I want to get people to understand this, right? Remember what we spoke about AI. I'm not going to go deep into this, but AI is doing a lot of radiological reading right now. Okay, and what happens is that those are the inconsistencies that you get, folks. A lot of human beings are losing their jobs because of this. And what I've said is we shouldn't fear AI. But that is the kind of stuff that happens with the current version of AI. It'll get better, but that is what happened. Thank you, my brother. You have a wonderful day. We are at 53 right now. And somehow I was able to get through the calls today. So before I give my little final thoughts, I want to send it to our 2 storied, very smart folks in the studio to see if they want to add to this discussion, because I know Howard has something else to add. He's got to have something else to add.
Oh, goodness. What can I add? But sitting here listening to Brian is just humorous to me. Just totally humorous. I mean, that's probably the best comedy you could probably dig up somewhere, is listening to him. And although I wonder, he has the right to say whatever he wants to, because at this particular point, It's still a free country. But Brian, do you even think about what you say?
I agreed with the guy, man. I agreed with him.
No,
he just wants to fight with me.
Oh, that's, and he's a very different person on Michael's show, on Conversations.
I can
he's
imagine.
he's nowhere near as aggressive or way off topic. He's just a different person. And Michael and I have had discussions about that and say, gee, he's such a different person than he is on Egberto's show.
I wonder why. But let's go to Bobby. I wonder why. Bobby, how you doing this morning?
Hey, good morning, Egberto.
Good morning, my brother. Talk to me.
Your caller, Johnny, I always love listening to him. He hasn't said a thing yet that I don't agree with. Man, I was calling back this morning because I wanted to read you something from AI real quick.
Please do.
Okay, so this is going back to the white fibrous clots that they were saying. Embalmers are saying that they started noticing after COVID-19. So I asked the question. It says in 2023, 73% of 301 embalmers surveyed reported seeing these clots, with 20% of corpses affected. In 2024, 83% of embalmers reported these clots, indicating a possible increase. As of 2025, 64% of embalmers at a Tennessee convention reported seeing white fibrous clots, and 17% of corpses. The characteristics are described as white, fibrous, and rubbery, found in both veins and arteries, resistant to breakdown, and rich in misfolded protein. The possible link to COVID-19 vaccine, some research suggests a link between the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein produced by mRNA vaccines and amyloidogenic clotting. Peer-reviewed studies support this theory, showing the spike protein can initiate amyloid microclot formation. Scientific community response. While some researchers are sounding the alarm, institutions like the CDC and FDA haven't responded to submissions about the finding.
Based on what you said, we're at a hard stop, Bobby. But we're at a hard stop. Send it to me. You haven't sent it to me yet. Look, folks, love you all. Go to politicsandright.com/newsletter is where the rest of the show is. You can write me directly at kpft@politicsandright.com, kpft@politicsandright.com. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics and Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. Support for this show, Politics and Right, comes from politicsandright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take